Okay, hello everyone. So in this video I'm actually going to be doing another one of the album rankings. I know I did one a long time ago. It was really a while ago. And I said I was going to start doing them, but I never really did. These videos tend to take a little bit more time to prepare for. So that's why I never really did another one, because I've been really busy ever since then. And now I just have more time to do it. So here we are. I do plan to do a few more of these types of videos. I just don't know exactly who I'm going to do them for. This one that I'm going to be doing is of CLC. So CLC are an alt group for me. I've alted them for a long time. I don't even know exactly how long it's been, but it feels like forever. But of course, since they're an alt, that means I really love their music. I do genuinely really love all of their music. I have a big place in my heart for like everything they've released. And they've released some of like my favorite K-pop albums like overall. Like in terms of their discography, they have 8 mini albums and 2 Japanese mini albums. I won't be talking about the Japanese mini albums because I don't really listen to them, and I don't know, they're just not essential parts of their discography. So yeah, I'm just not going to talk about those. But I'm going to go from 8 to 1. So my number 8 is First Love, their first mini album. Basically overall, I just don't have a lot of connections with this album. I got into CLC a while after this album came out, so I never really got into it like that. Like, it's just not my favorite, and even though I do really love Pepe, like, I don't know if I want to say it's one of their best title tracks. It's one that's beloved by a lot of people, and a lot of people will say they love it even if they don't really listen to CLC. I don't know exactly how I would rank CLC title tracks, but I feel like it'd be pretty high up there, like if I had to choose. But yeah, I think Pepe is a really good song. The other songs on this album are really good, and I listened to this album before making this video, and I do like it. I think Cafe Mocha Please and Shalala are really good songs. They're fun, and First Love and Opening the Window are really nice kind of slow ballad tracks, but it just doesn't kind of stack up to the rest of their discography. I think everything else in their discography is just so good, and this just doesn't really compare in any way. But again, not to say that it's a bad album or anything, it's just very much not my favorite. So yeah, that was my number 8. So my number 7 is Nuclear. This album is weirdly really low. This was the era that I got into CLC, so I do have a really special place in my heart for this album. No Oh is one of my favorite K-pop songs of like all time, for real. But as a whole album, this album doesn't really stack up to a lot of the other stuff in their discography. Same with their first album. I don't really listen to it that often, and when I think, oh, I'll go back and listen to some of CLC's old songs, I usually don't go back to this album a whole lot. And like overall, I think the album is good. I don't have bad things to say about it, but also I don't really have much to say about it in general, because like I said, I really love No Oh, but anything past that is just kind of alright for me. But yeah, so this is my number 7. So my number 6 is Black Dress. Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised by how low this is. Like, even me, myself, I'm a little bit surprised by it. When I started to think about it a little bit more, I realized, yeah, this is probably the best spot for it. I really like Black Dress, and that's kind of the thing with these lower ranked albums, is I really like the title track, but the B-sides just don't really do it for me. Or it's not that I don't like them, it's just that you know, the albums that are higher have a lot better B-sides and tracks as a whole. But this album, again, I really love Black Dress. I listened to it a lot last year. Again, something with the B-sides, I just don't listen to them very often. I really like To the Sky. It's just like really, really uplifting and nice to listen to. I really like that as well, but the other songs on the album I don't listen to very much. This album as a whole I don't listen to very much, besides Black Dress, and overall it's just not my favorite. This album I say I would go back and listen to a little bit more than like the previous 2 that I just talked about, but again, I just don't listen to this one that much. So my number 5 is Freezem. I apologize for the glare there, but I really like this album a lot. I think as a whole it's really good. It's one of the albums that I listen to more frequently from them. One thing about this album is that basically every song is different. Where Are You is kind of like 80s-ish, and then from there just going down the track list, literally every song is different. My favorite song from this album is I Like It. That song is really good. It's more of what people like from them in terms of sound. So I'm obviously not one of those people that only likes CLC's, you know, darker concepts or more girl crush concepts, but I think the sound really works for them, so I tend to like those songs a little bit more. But as a whole, I like this album a lot more than the previous three I talked about. It's kind of, I don't know, like a bigger step up. Like, there's the first three albums that I just mentioned, and then there's kind of like a big gap in between how much I like those albums and this one. But yes, I like this album a lot. It still feels like it's kind of low on my list, even though it's kind of weird, but like, I like this album a lot, yet it's still kind of low. It's okay though, because I truly do like every aspect of CLC's discography, so it's not like I necessarily have horrible things to say about any of their albums. But yeah, so that was number 5. And now with the second half of their albums, my number 4 is Question. So this was their last OT5 album, and I think it's kind of interesting. Sometimes I kind of wonder where their music would have went if they would have stayed 5. Not that I prefer OT5 over OT7. I kind of wonder if they would have gone in the same direction they did. A lot of the times I don't realize how much I like this album until I listen to it again. The title track from this album is really fun. Heyo is another song I really like. Lucky is just a cute little, you know, ballad song that I think is really cute. Hide and Seek is also probably my favorite song from this album. I don't know if I've talked about this song particularly a lot. I don't necessarily get a chance to talk about CLC's older discography all that often, but yeah, that's probably one of my favorite songs out of CLC's earlier discography. I'm thinking maybe I'll do like a ranking of CLC songs, just because I myself am a little bit interested in seeing where I would rank a lot of their songs. But that song is a favorite, I'd say. But yeah, overall this album, it's really good, it's really fun. Compared to their first album, it's a big step up since this was their second album. The music quality went up by quite a bit for me. So yeah, again, considering how much I love this album, it still feels kind of low to me, but again, you know, I just love all of their discography, so it's really hard to rank. I realized that ranking these albums was a little bit hard for me, just because when I get to a certain point, it's like I love all of them so much. It's like if I could put all of them at my number 1, I would, but... And then number 3 is Crystyle. So this album in particular marked a pretty big change in CLC's style and their direction. When this album first came out, a lot of people were really into it, rightfully so, because this album is really good. Hobgoblin, it's one of my favorites for sure. I don't listen to it much these days because it is very much a song from 2017. It doesn't feel like this album came out 2 years ago, but it definitely did. But this whole album is really good. The rest of the songs on the album don't necessarily feel like they came out in 2017. Liar is such a good song. I remember that being one of my favorite songs of 2017. Basically, all of this album was like on my top list for my favorite songs of 2017. Mistake and Meow Meow are great songs. Love those two. The ballady songs on this album are just really good too. I consider this album my favorite CLC album for a while, so it definitely kind of deserves its spot at number 3. And overall, I really liked the change that they did. I like their cute concepts, and I'm not gonna undermine them in any way because I think they pull them off really well. But it was really interesting to see the change, see the transition, see what they could do, and yeah, so it was not only just really interesting to see, they also put out an amazing album in the process, and I'm really happy about that. Okay, so my number 2. My number 2 is Refresh, and I feel like maybe a lot of people wouldn't agree with me on this. They wouldn't personally rank it so high on their list, but I have a weird kind of attachment to this album because, I don't know, somehow it just became one of my favorites. Like, I also considered this album one of my favorites for a while, just because I think this album is so fun, and a lot of the times what I need is just a lot of bright, fun, happy music, and that's exactly what this is. I think High Heels is a really fun title track. I really liked that era for them. I really like the outfits. I didn't really stan them back then, but I really remember paying attention to this era because of Eunbin joining, and that was around when I was watching Produce 101. So, like, of course I was going to be interested just because of that whole situation, and I thought it was really interesting that she was joining in so late. But then again, thinking back to this album, CLC were only about a year old. Like, I don't think they'd even hit their first year anniversary yet, so looking back at it, it doesn't seem like the two new members joined in as late as it seemed back then. But yeah, overall, I think this album is like super fun, super cute, and I really love CLC's cute concepts. So this was kind of like perfect. Like, it's cute, it's simple, the songs are really fun. Again, I don't know if anyone likes this album as much as I do. I've never heard anyone talk about it with as much love as I have for it, but I mean, that's okay. If it's not people's cup of tea, that's totally fine by me. So this is my number 2. And so my number 1 album, if you haven't already guessed it, it is number 1. So this album just came out this year. It's only been about 4 months since it came out, but let me tell you, I don't know if it's just because of kind of my hype about it this year, but I think this is CLC's best album, obviously, since it's my number 1, but I think this album is so great, and honestly, I don't think I'm going to change my opinion about it. I don't necessarily think it's because of my hype about it from it coming out recently, because I genuinely think the songs on this album are amazing, and I've listened to this thing through so many times this year. Every single song on this album is within like the top maybe 15 of my most listened to songs of the year so far, and I just think this album is really great. I think they kind of, you know, since they were supposed to have La Vie en Rose as their comeback song, I think they kind of took that concept that they were going to do from La Vie en Rose and kind of perfected it a little bit. Like, they came back with No, which is not similar to La Vie en Rose in any way, shape, or form. The concept in particular is kind of similar to what, it's kind of like a B cut to what maybe IZ*ONE would have done for La Vie en Rose. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, I think they took what they were going to do and again just put their own spin on it and like perfected it. No is a really strong comeback song, and I feel like there was a lot of hype around it because Soyeon helped write it, compose it. I don't know exactly what she did, but I know she was involved. I don't know if it was composing, writing lyrics, or producing. It could have been all 3, but who knows. I don't off the top of my head. In terms of every single song is different, but they're also really cohesive at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense, but this album feels like it was kind of like meant to be. Like, every single one of these songs feels like they fit together even though they're so different. Show is one of my favorite songs from this album. For me, it kind of has like a Playing with Fire, Blackpink vibe, which I think is kind of cool because I haven't really heard another song similar to that one. I also really love Seunghee's high note in that song. Breakdown is a really good song too. That one's kind of like weirdly kind of sexy, like subtle, sexy, and I really like that. And Like It, again, another song with the word like in the title. It's just really good, and so is I Need You. I Need You, actually, it took me like more than a month to realize that that entire song is in English. Like, one day I was just on my way to school driving. I remember just being like, wow, this entire thing is in English? How did I not realize that earlier? But yeah, I think it's really cool that they did that. I never really expected them, of all groups, to put out an entirely English song, but yeah, again, overall, this album is really good. I love it a lot. I mean, it really did kind of surpass every single one of CLC's albums. I don't know exactly how other people feel about it. I know people liked No when it came out, but it was kind of hit or miss with people, I think. I don't know if I've heard a lot of people talk about this album recently, though, just because it did come out in January, so I'm not entirely sure about where people stand with it now. But personally, I think it's a really good album. I think it's CLC's best. For a while, I thought Crystal was their best, and that's like objectively speaking, and not just ranking them in favorites. Like, I thought Crystal was their best album for a while, like musically, but this one I definitely think is their best. It shows a more mature side of them, and it's more of that, you know, girl crush kind of concept they did with Hobgoblin, but again, it's just more matured and it's more kind of cohesive and more to 2019's style, I guess. I don't know. And it was also the era that they got their first win, so this album in particular is pretty special for me as a Cheshire. Love this album a lot. Okay, yeah, so that was everything. If you'd like, you can go ahead and tell me how you would rank CLC's albums. I feel like it'd be interesting to see other people's takes. But yeah, overall, I just have a huge place in my heart for CLC's entire discography. I mean, it's a lot of the reason as to why they're so high up on my bias list. I mean, these days I stan people for music, and if I like the members, then that's just an extra plus. And I guess with those two aspects put together, I really love CLC and everything about them. So I mean, if you're not into CLC, that's cool, but also I encourage you to listen to more of their music if you haven't. So yeah, that was everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.